This week was super exciting. I collaborated with my good friend Raul, Bartender, on his channel. I explained a little bit about my past life as a Flair bartender and even showed off a few of my moves. You can see that video here. Anyway, this got me thinking. He asked me some sort of question like, would I do it all over again? If I'm being 100% honest, even my worst mistakes in life, I don't regret. I don't even look back and feel embarrassed about any of them because I can see where my life is headed now, and I wouldn't be on this path if I skipped any of my mistakes or failures. And trust me, there have been a lot, and I'm sure I'm not finished. I haven't had a job in I think about 6 years. Call me self-employed or entrepreneur, but whatever it is, this lifestyle is never easy. So many people always comment on how lucky I am to have so much freedom to do whatever I want, whenever I want. I get snide remarks about how they all have real jobs or do real work. I have had people ask me if my husband gives me an allowance. No, I actually do work, just not in the traditional sense. But I can't blame them. I do have a pretty sweet life. I can ride my bike whenever I want, and I'm not going to post content about writing proposals, sending emails, doing paperwork, payroll, and so on, because who would want to see that boring stuff anyway? I'm only going to post the fun stuff because what would be the purpose of me posting things that'll make everyone unfollow me? The point of this is, yes, I do have a lot of freedom, and it's because of Flair Bartending that I have this freedom. So how did I go from being one of the top female Flair bartenders in the entire world to an age group triathlon YouTuber, social media inspirer person, or whatever this is? I must admit, in no way did I plan any of this. I'm a terrible planner. For example, there was a time I flew all the way from Las Vegas to Amsterdam with Vlad Slick Bartender for a Flair competition. And the day before the comp, we decided to go to Germany since I had never been there before. And we totally missed the competition, which was our whole purpose for flying across the pond anyway. So basically, I just sort of go with the flow and let things happen to me. My inability to say no most of the time is a huge navigator in my life. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, and that's exactly how I got into Flair bartending. I was 19 when I first moved to Vegas, and the first friends I happened to make were Flair bartenders. So by the time I was 20 years old, I already began learning how to Flair, and within 4 months competed in my very first Flair competition called King of the Ring, which was held at the world's #1 Flair bar, Carnival Court. In the semi-pro division, I ended up placing 7th place overall and even won some money. Up until this point, I was quite shy. But that was my first time on stage, and something woke up in me during that competition. I was hooked. From that moment on, Flair consumed my life. I could easily practice 8 hours per day, every day, and I thrived when it was time to compete. I loved being on stage. I was noticed by bar managers who offered me a job the moment I turned 21. So without even knowing how to bartend, I set foot behind the bar for the first time and put just as much passion into learning everything I could about bartending. So I wasn't just a Flair bartender. And this is how my bartending career continued for the next 9 years. I always stayed passionate and worked to always be better, the best. When I was 30 years old, I helped create Las Vegas Flair Academy. I was only an instructor for the very first class because it actually took off quite fast, and I was an operator behind the scenes, doing all the bookings, scheduling the classes, getting sponsorship, ordering merchandise, negotiating contracts with venues, business licensing, accounting, taxes, and so on. I was basically transformed into a businesswoman without planning that either, and all of this was because of Flair bartending and my passion for it and wanting to spread the knowledge. So fast forward a few years, we have stumbled through some pretty decent failures. We had some great days, some bad days, and a lot of successes too. But each and every day brings something new and totally unplanned. There was a point when I was working 18-hour days for years in a row, and it got to the point that it was time for a break. So just like that, I quit everything and decided to focus on family life. But there are 24 hours in a day, and family doesn't need you for that many hours. So it was only a matter of time before I would go crazy if I didn't find something else to do with my time. And with that, a friend of mine came along and convinced me to ride my bike in a 40-mile charity bike ride. She lent me her bike. It was June in Las Vegas, so it was basically like riding in an oven. I had never been on a road bike before and had no idea what I was getting myself into. It was way too hot. I didn't have the right type of clothes or shoes for this event. I was skinny, but not fit. I was so exhausted that I even fell once just as I was about to make it to the top of a hill, and it was complete misery. And the first thing I said when I was finished was, I need to buy a bike. And that's probably the moment a monster was born. Cycling became an obsession, just like Flair Bartending. Riding my bike wasn't good enough. I needed to ride it fast. I needed to compete in races. I needed to become one of the best. You could see me doing the same thing with cycling that I did with Flair Bartending. Riding my bike every day, rain, shine, on the hottest Vegas desert summer days to the coldest winter days with snow. I even did a few 8-hour rides in preparation for my first really big race, which was 202 miles in one day. I gave a lot of effort and became a pretty decent cyclist along the way. And a lot of my friends were triathletes and kept trying to get me to race in one. I finally gave in and did my first sprint triathlon. And truth be told, I didn't like it. I came home and said, you know what? I just want to ride my bike. And so for the next year and a half, I just rode my bike. But at some point during that year and a half, I got an email from Ironman stating they were going to have a first ever Ironman 70.3 race in Traverse City, Michigan. I grew up in that area and had tons of family and friends there, so I knew if I was ever going to do one, this was the one. And without thinking, I signed up for it. 2.5 months before that Ironman race, I still wasn't even thinking about training for it. I still had my sights set on bike races, and I was about to do the 3 hardest bike races in Utah. I signed up for all 3 and was on a mission to succeed. But things didn't go as planned, which is probably why I really don't make plans. The first race was a relay, and unfortunately, that didn't go well for me. It was my first, only, and probably last DNF ever. DNF means I did not finish. I did come home heartbroken since I didn't finish that race. And the 2 other races didn't matter anymore. I wasn't going to get the Triple Crank award I was going for, and it didn't help that these races were super expensive to sign up for. To say that only motivated me to train harder for the next race I would do would be a serious understatement. My heart was broken by the cycling community that day, and I had an Ironman 70.3 to train for. And with that go hard and go home mentality that helped me succeed as a Flair bartender, I trained hard once again. And just after 2 months training for this 1.2 mile swim, 56 mile bike, and 13.1 mile run, I went and snatched a spot on that podium in my age group and qualified for the World Championship in New Zealand, November 2020. I retired from Flair competitions 9 years ago. I no longer work behind a bar, but Flair is still a part of me, and because of Flair, I am an age group triathlete now. I still enjoy flipping bottles, I still perform once in a while, and even work special event, but my main focus now is building a brand that I can be proud of. Coming up with the name Busy Athlete was the hardest part, so now it's time to get to work to build it so I can give back to the triathlon and cycling communities. I spent the past 15 years of my life working on getting sponsorships for my personal use and business use. Now I want to be able to give back and be a sponsor to those who could use the extra help to become great. So when asked if I would change my past and be something other than a bartender, the answer is a hard no. Not only is it a really unique talent, it teaches you strength emotionally and physically. You will take a beating when you are learning. There were days my fingers were purple and my arms are so badly bruised. No matter how much it hurt, I would keep going and going until I nailed that move I was so desperate to land. And that taught me determination. Wanting to be the best all-around bartender taught me to always keep learning. I still choose podcasts and audiobooks over music any day to become a better athlete and to learn as much as I can about health and nutrition. And bartending taught me serious focus. Have you ever competed in a speed round in which you have to make 6 to 10 drinks as fast as possible and as clean as possible? It's been years, and I still, to this day, I'm always navigating in my head everything I have to do and figuring out what is the most efficient and quickest way to get it all done. And the biggest thing I learned from being a Flair bartender is patience and how to communicate with people. No matter how cool you think you are when you're drunk, you're most likely not. But a good bartender can make you feel like you are. And those bartenders really can navigate through life a lot smoother than many others. But the coolest thing about Flair bartending was the fact that I got to see a lot of the world doing it. Now I get to see more of the world on my new journey as a triathlete. Life is good. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so you can follow along with my journey. I'm now 10 months out from the World Championship race I'm training for, so it should be an exciting journey. You can also find me on Instagram, where I post daily story updates. But lately, a lot of weird TikTok videos because I'm really trying to figure out how to make a video go viral there. If you know how to do that, please let me know in the comments. And until next time, adios amigos. Mwah.